My wife left me for a billionaire. 5 years later he worked for me. The day my wife left me, she didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She didn't even pretend to feel guilty. Instead, she sat across from me in our kitchen and calmly explained why our marriage was over. David, I need more. At first, I thought she meant emotionally. Maybe more attention. More time together. Maybe I'd worked too much. I was wrong. She meant money. My name is David Brooks. At the time, I owned a small software consulting company in Austin, Texas. The business wasn't failing. But it wasn't impressive either. We had 6 employees. A tiny office. And just enough revenue to survive. Meanwhile, my wife, Lauren, had become obsessed with wealth. Luxury cars. Private clubs. Expensive vacations. Social media lifestyles. She wanted all of it. Unfortunately, I couldn't provide it. Then she met Victor Stone. Everyone in Texas knew who Victor was. A real estate billionaire. Private jets. Luxury resorts. Television interviews. The kind of man magazines called self-made. The kind of man who always got what he wanted. 3 months after meeting him, Lauren filed for divorce. 6 months later, she married him. Just like that. 10 years together ended. Most people expected me to fall apart. Some days I almost did. But something unexpected happened. Instead of focusing on revenge, I focused on work. Every ounce of pain became fuel. I worked weekends, holidays, late nights, early mornings. For the first time in my life, failure wasn't an option. Then an opportunity appeared. Artificial intelligence. Most business owners ignored it. Many didn't understand it. But I did. I believed AI would transform entire industries. While competitors stayed comfortable, I invested everything. Every dollar. Every hour. Every resource. Friends thought I was crazy. Banks rejected loan applications. Investors laughed at my presentations. But I kept going. Year after year. Slowly, clients arrived. Then bigger clients. Then national corporations. Revenue doubled. Then tripled. Then exploded. 5 years later, my tiny consulting company had become one of the fastest growing AI automation firms in America. Our software helped logistics companies reduce costs. Insurance companies process claims. Banks detect fraud. By 42, I was worth more money than I ever imagined. Not billionaire money. But enough to never worry again. Ironically, that was when I saw Lauren for the first time since the divorce. The encounter happened at a charity event. She looked beautiful. But something seemed different. Less confident. Less happy. Victor wasn't beside her. I later learned why. His empire was collapsing. For years, Victor had borrowed aggressively. Commercial real estate. Office towers. Retail centers. Luxury developments. Everything looked brilliant when markets were strong. Then interest rates increased. Property values fell. Debt payments exploded. Suddenly, the billionaire everyone admired had a serious problem. Banks wanted money. Investors wanted answers. The media wanted a story. And Victor had none. Months later, financial headlines dominated the news. Stone Capital faces liquidity crisis. Billionaire developer seeks emergency financing. Major projects halted. The collapse accelerated. Faster than anyone expected. Then one morning my executive assistant entered my office. "You have a meeting request." "From who?" She handed me a folder. I opened it. Then stared in disbelief. The request came from Victor Stone. The billionaire. The man who married my ex-wife. The man who once laughed at my business. The man who believed I would never matter. Apparently, he wanted help. The meeting took place the following week. Victor looked older. Tired. For the first time, he seemed human. He skipped small talk. "My company needs technology." I listened. "We need efficiency." I remained silent. "We need automation." Still silent. Finally, he leaned forward. "I need your help." The irony was almost unbelievable. 5 years earlier, he took my wife. Now he wanted my company. But the real shock came later. During due diligence, my team uncovered something unexpected. Victor's financial problems weren't caused only by bad investments. Someone inside his organization had been manipulating numbers. For years. Millions of dollars were missing. Then tens of millions. Then hundreds of millions. At first, I assumed it was another corporate fraud story. Until I saw a familiar name connected to the transactions. Lauren Stone. My ex-wife. The woman who left because she wanted a richer life. The woman who believed wealth solved everything. According to the records, she had signed documents linked to several suspicious transfers. I stared at the evidence. There had to be a mistake. But the deeper we investigated, the worse the truth became. And what we discovered next would destroy one of the most famous billionaire families in America. For several days, I refused to believe it. Lauren's name appeared too many times. Too many signatures. Too many approvals. Too many financial records. The evidence seemed overwhelming. Yet something felt wrong. I knew Lauren. Not the woman she had become. The woman she used to be. She enjoyed expensive things. She loved attention. She made questionable decisions. But fraud. Stealing hundreds of millions of dollars. That didn't fit. I needed answers. Unfortunately, answers were difficult to find. The moment our investigation intensified, resistance appeared everywhere. Documents disappeared. Executives delayed meetings. Several employees suddenly resigned. Someone was clearly nervous. And nervous people often make mistakes. The first mistake came from Victor's chief financial officer. A man named Harold Bennett. For nearly 20 years, Harold had managed the financial operations of Stone Capital. Banks trusted him. Investors trusted him. The media praised him. On paper, he looked perfect. But our forensic accountants noticed something strange. Harold consistently approved transactions involving the same group of vendors. The amounts varied. The explanations varied. The companies varied. Yet somehow, Harold always appeared somewhere in the approval chain. At first, it seemed insignificant. Then we discovered the vendors were connected. And then we discovered something even worse. Many of them weren't real businesses. They existed only on paper. The fraud network was larger than anyone imagined. Much larger. One evening, I received an unexpected call. The caller ID displayed a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, a familiar voice spoke. David. I froze. Lauren. We hadn't spoken privately in nearly 5 years. You need to stop investigating. The words caught me off guard. Why? There was silence. Then she spoke again. Because you're looking in the wrong direction. What does that mean? Another pause. Finally she said something that changed everything. Victor isn't the victim. Then she hung up. I stared at the phone. Victor isn't the victim. The sentence replayed in my head all night. The next morning, I arranged a meeting with Lauren. Against my lawyer's advice. Against my team's advice. Against common sense. But I needed answers. The meeting took place at a private restaurant outside Dallas. Lauren arrived wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. Not because she was hiding from reporters. Because she was hiding from someone else. The moment she sat down, I knew something was wrong. She looked terrified. Not stressed. Not worried. Terrified. Before I could ask questions, she placed a flash drive on the table. Everything is on there. Everything. The truth. I took the drive. What truth? Lauren leaned forward. The billionaire everyone admires doesn't exist. I frowned. What are you talking about? Her answer shocked me. According to Lauren, Victor Stone's empire was far weaker than anyone realized. For years, he had manipulated property valuations. Hidden losses. Moved debt between companies. Created the illusion of strength. The business wasn't collapsing because of recent market conditions. It had been deteriorating for years. The public image was a lie. The private reality was a disaster. Then Lauren revealed something even more disturbing. Victor knew. He had always known. Every decision. Every deception. Every manipulation. He wasn't being betrayed by executives. He was leading them. I sat silently, trying to process everything. If Lauren was telling the truth, this wasn't a simple fraud investigation. This was one of the largest corporate scandals in modern real estate history. Then she said the words I least expected. That's why I married him. I stared at her. What? Tears appeared in her eyes. You think I left because he was rich? Didn't you? No. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Lauren told me a story I never expected. Years ago, before our divorce, she had worked with a nonprofit organization investigating financial misconduct in commercial development projects. One case repeatedly led back to Victor Stone. Unfortunately, nobody could prove anything. Victor's lawyers crushed every accusation. Witnesses disappeared. Evidence vanished. Investigations stalled. Then an opportunity emerged. Someone close to Victor needed access. Someone he would trust. Someone who could gather information. Lauren volunteered. At first, I thought she was lying. The story sounded impossible. But the evidence on the flash drive supported her claims. Emails. Recordings. Financial documents. Photographs. Years of information. All collected secretly. All pointing toward Victor. I looked at her. You destroyed our marriage for this. Her eyes filled with tears. It was supposed to last 6 months. What happened? He got suspicious. The operation became dangerous. Leaving wasn't simple. Staying became necessary. Months turned into years. Years turned into a nightmare. And now Victor was starting to suspect the truth. Suddenly everything made sense. The fear. The secrecy. The desperation. Lauren wasn't protecting herself. She was trying to survive. Then she delivered the worst news of all. Victor knows someone is helping investigators. My stomach tightened. How much does he know? I don't know. What does he think? Lauren looked directly into my eyes. I think he believes it's you. The room became silent. Very silent. Because if Victor believed I was responsible, the situation had just become far more dangerous. And judging by the fear on Lauren's face, we had already run out of time. The first warning arrived 2 days later. One of my largest clients canceled a contract worth nearly $40 million. No explanation. No negotiation. No second chance. Just gone. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. Then another client postponed a major agreement. Then another. And another. Within a week, something became obvious. Someone was targeting my company. Systematically. Professionally. Expensively. The attacks weren't random. They were coordinated. Rumors began spreading online. Anonymous articles questioned our finances. Industry blogs published false information. Social media accounts pushed stories claiming our technology was unreliable. Every accusation was difficult to disprove because none of it was entirely specific. The goal wasn't to destroy us overnight. The goal was to damage trust. And trust is everything in business. I gathered my executive team. The mood was tense. Everyone understood what was happening. Nobody wanted to say the name. Finally, my legal director said it. Victor. I nodded. The room fell silent. Because everyone knew she was probably right. Victor Stone had spent decades building relationships with investors, politicians, media executives, and business leaders. If he wanted to make life difficult for someone, he had resources most people couldn't imagine. Then came the second warning. One evening, while leaving headquarters, I noticed a black SUV parked across the street. At first, I ignored it. The next day it appeared again. And the day after that. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it wasn't. But for the first time in years, I hired private security. The situation was escalating. Fast. Meanwhile, federal investigators continued reviewing evidence from Lauren's flash drive. The results shocked everyone. Several documents revealed hidden partnerships worth hundreds of millions. Others exposed undisclosed debt. Some suggested deliberate manipulation of financial statements. The deeper investigators looked, the worse things became. Then came the breakthrough. A former Stone Capital executive agreed to cooperate. His name was Michael Reeves. For years he managed internal acquisitions. According to prosecutors, Michael possessed information capable of exposing the entire operation. The government immediately placed him under protection. Victor's lawyers reacted aggressively. Publicly, they denied every allegation. Privately, panic was spreading. We knew because people started talking. Employees leaked information. Executives resigned. Consultants disappeared. The empire Victor built was starting to crack. Then something happened that nobody expected. Victor called me directly. Not through lawyers. Not through assistants. Directly. His voice sounded calm. Almost friendly. Which made it even more unsettling. You should walk away. I didn't answer. You don't understand what you're involved in. Still silent. Then his tone changed. For the first time, anger appeared. You think you're saving people. He laughed. You're destroying them. The call ended abruptly. I stared at my phone. The strange thing wasn't the threat. The strange thing was that Victor sounded desperate. And desperate people are dangerous. 3 weeks later, the government announced formal hearings. News channels covered the story nonstop. Financial commentators debated outcomes daily. Analysts predicted catastrophic consequences. Some called it the biggest real estate scandal in decades. The attention transformed the investigation into a national story. Suddenly everyone wanted answers. Investors. Regulators. Journalists. Politicians. The pressure became enormous. Then came the day of the hearing. The room was packed. Cameras lined the walls. Reporters filled every seat. Victor arrived surrounded by attorneys. Expensive suits. Confident expressions. Carefully rehearsed statements. To the public, he still looked untouchable. Then Michael Reeves testified. Everything changed. For 6 straight hours, he explained how the system worked. Hidden partnerships. Inflated valuations. Secret debt transfers. Internal pressure campaigns. He described conversations, meetings, emails, decisions. Every detail painted the same picture. A picture of deliberate deception. The room grew quieter with each revelation. Victor remained expressionless. But his lawyers looked increasingly concerned. Then prosecutors introduced evidence from Lauren. The flash drive. The recordings. The financial records. Years of information. One by one. Piece by piece. The walls began closing in. By the end of the hearing, the headlines were already writing themselves. Billionaire empire under fire. Investigators expand probe. Stone Capital faces uncertain future. But the biggest shock came later that night. Around midnight, my phone rang. It was Lauren. She sounded terrified. More terrified than I'd ever heard her. David. What's wrong? Her voice trembled. Michael is missing. I sat upright. What? He disappeared. Suddenly every ounce of exhaustion vanished. Michael Reeves wasn't just another witness. He was the witness. The man connecting everything together. The man who knew the entire system. If Michael disappeared, the investigation could be damaged. Severely. I immediately called federal contacts. Within an hour, rumors started spreading. Nobody knew what happened. Nobody knew where he was. Nobody knew whether he left voluntarily. Or whether someone helped him disappear. By sunrise, the story dominated national news. Speculation exploded. Markets reacted. Investors panicked. Prosecutors scrambled. And somewhere in the middle of the chaos, Victor Stone held a press conference. Standing before dozens of cameras, he looked more confident than he had in months. Too confident. As reporters shouted questions, Victor smiled. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. The truth is finally coming. A reporter asked what he meant. Victor's smile widened. Because the real story hasn't even started yet. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I wondered if Victor was right. Because if Michael Reeves truly disappeared, then someone, somewhere, was still controlling the game. And we had no idea who it was. The disappearance of Michael Reeves changed everything. For months, the investigation had moved in one direction. Toward Victor Stone. Toward Stone Capital. Toward a billionaire whose empire appeared to be collapsing under the weight of fraud and deception. Then Michael vanished. Suddenly, certainty disappeared with him. The media exploded with speculation. Some believed Victor arranged it. Others believed Michael fled to avoid prosecution. Conspiracy theories spread everywhere. Financial markets reacted immediately. Several projects connected to Stone Capital were suspended. Lenders became nervous. Investors demanded answers. No one knew what would happen next. Least of all me. 3 days after Michael disappeared, federal agents arrived at my office. Their visit wasn't a courtesy call. They had questions. A lot of questions. One agent placed a photograph on the table. I recognized Michael instantly. But the man standing beside him shocked me. I had never seen him before. The agent noticed my reaction. You don't know him. I shook my head. No. The agent exchanged a look with his partner. Then he revealed something unexpected. The unknown man appeared repeatedly throughout the investigation. Different cities. Different companies. Different financial transactions. Yet nobody knew his real role. His name was Samuel Cross. At least, that's what the records claimed. Unfortunately, most of those records were fake. Fake addresses. Fake business registrations. Fake employment history. It was as if someone had invented an entire identity. The more investigators searched, the stranger the story became. Samuel Cross seemed to exist everywhere. And nowhere. Then the agent delivered the news that changed everything. We believe Samuel Cross may have controlled portions of the operation. I frowned. More than Victor. The agent hesitated. Then nodded. The room became silent. Because if that was true, then Victor wasn't the mastermind. He was a piece of the puzzle. A powerful piece. But still a piece. For months, everyone focused on the billionaire. Meanwhile, someone else operated in the shadows. Someone intelligent enough to remain invisible. Someone dangerous enough to manipulate billion-dollar transactions without attracting attention. And now that person had disappeared alongside Michael Reeves. The situation was becoming more complicated by the hour. Then came another surprise. Lauren requested an emergency meeting. When she arrived, she looked exhausted. She placed a folder on my desk. I found this in Victor's private archive. I opened it. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. Most appeared ordinary. Business dinners. Conferences. Investment meetings. Then I saw one image that stopped me cold. Richard Mason. My former mentor. The man who taught me almost everything about business. The man who helped me launch my software company. The man I trusted completely. His photograph appeared beside Samuel Cross. The same Samuel Cross nobody could identify. My stomach tightened. No. Lauren nodded slowly. I said the same thing. I flipped through more photographs. There he was again. And again. And again. Different years. Different countries. Different events. Always nearby. Always connected somehow. I couldn't believe it. Richard Mason wasn't just successful. He was respected. Admired. Trusted. The kind of businessman people quoted in interviews. The kind of leader universities invited to speak. The kind of person nobody questioned. Yet the evidence suggested he knew far more than he admitted. Maybe much more. That night I couldn't sleep. Memories kept replaying. Every conversation. Every piece of advice. Every introduction. Every opportunity Richard helped create. What if none of it was accidental? What if my success wasn't entirely my own? The thought terrified me. The next morning, I confronted him. Richard agreed to meet immediately. Which surprised me. Most guilty people avoid difficult conversations. Richard didn't. When I entered his office, he looked calm. Almost relieved. As if he knew this moment was inevitable. I placed the photographs on his desk. He studied them quietly. Then sighed. A long, tired sigh. I was wondering when you'd find those. My heart started racing. You know him. Richard nodded. Yes. The admission felt like a punch to the chest. Who is Samuel Cross? Richard leaned back in his chair. For several seconds, he stared at the ceiling. Then he finally spoke. That's not his real name. The room became very quiet. Then what is? Richard looked directly into my eyes. The problem isn't his name. Then what is the problem? His expression darkened. The problem is that nobody has seen him in almost 20 years. I frowned. What are you talking about? Richard swallowed hard. Then spoke words I'll never forget. Samuel Cross officially died 19 years ago. Every thought in my head stopped. For a moment, I wondered if I misheard him. Died. Richard nodded. There was an accident. But investigators. I know what investigators believe. His voice sounded distant. Almost haunted. But they're looking for a ghost. Nothing made sense. A dead man couldn't control financial networks. A dead man couldn't move billions of dollars. A dead man couldn't disappear with a key witness. Yet Richard seemed completely serious. Then he opened a drawer. Inside was an old newspaper clipping. The paper was yellow with age. The headline described a private aircraft crash. Multiple fatalities. One name immediately caught my attention. Samuel Cross. Declared dead. 19 years earlier. I looked up. Then who's running everything? Richard's face turned pale. For the first time since entering the room, he looked afraid. Genuinely afraid. His answer came barely above a whisper. That's the question you should stop asking. A chill ran through my body. Because suddenly I understood something. Richard wasn't protecting himself. He was warning me. And if a man like Richard Mason was afraid, then whatever stood behind Samuel Cross was far larger than Victor Stone. Far larger than Stone Capital. Far larger than anything we had imagined. And somewhere out there, the real architect of the empire was still watching.